I want to now follow the money, because when you take a systems approach, when you do all the interconnections, it lets you really understand the market dynamics and who's really making out like a bandit, because ultimately people will do these distractions, blame illegals, or make you think it's all about people coming together. But the reality is the problem never gets addressed unless you know what the real problem is. So what's the real issue here? What you find out is this was a crisis that people knew was coming. They should have been prepared, but they don't care. They knew that the baby formula is a monopoly. It's a partnership between the FDA and the Department of Agriculture. So you have the 3 or 4 major companies, the FDA and the Department of Agriculture all working together. And obviously Congress supports all this because they get paid by all of the companies' lobbyists. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Abbott controls 43% of the baby formula in the United States. They go under the names Similac, Alimentum, and Elecare. Abbott and Mead Johnson control 80%. And if you take Abbott, Mead Johnson, and Nestle, that's a 98%. The real issue is not that there's not enough formula. So let's get that clear. There's not enough formula. That's not the issue. And if anyone ever tells you that, it's total BS. And I hope that's the most important takeaway you take from this. The real issue is there's centralization, monopoly of the distribution system. And when you have centralization like that, the elites can create shortages in specific states. That's what's really happened. And that's what if you go back and review what I talked about with the WIC partnership that they did. And there's really 2 basic mechanisms in how this is created. The first is the Congress and the lobbyists through corruption have created regulations to protect you, supposedly, for safety, so no newcomers can ever come into the market. So that's step 1. You may want to write that down. It's a artificial regulatory framework that's done that is really nice to the existing people, but doesn't let new people come in. The second is that the federal government buys more than half of the baby formula in the market under the pretension that they're going to support competitive bidding. And in fact, what that does is the lowest bidder gets the monopoly. Okay? So think about what they've done. The federal government gets involved. They said, oh, we want to get the best competitive bidding. You see, it all sounds good on paper, but what competitive bidding leads to is one person gets it. So in a state, you don't have like 10 makers, you just have one guy. And Congress has designed that, but they sell it to the public. Oh, we had a competitive bid. So again, it makes it impossible for any newcomers to come in. So you create a brittle system, highly centralized. And if you look at the last Abbott call that took place, they had their Wall Street reporting earnings report. And you would think in the midst of a crisis like this, Abbott would be, oh my God, we have this major crisis. What do we do on their earning calls? And you would probably think that their stock would go down. So think about it. Abbott has a major crisis. They control nearly 50% of the market. It's all out there that this baby shortage. Would you not think that the market forces would ding Abbott and their stock would go down? Well, did that in fact happen? What really happened was Abbott said that, oh, this was just a short-term issue. No big deal. Move along. Nothing to see here. And in fact, Abbott's shares rose by 2.4%, and Wall Street didn't do anything to them. Not even one analyst said anything against Abbott. You know why? Because Abbott is making billions of dollars on many other things. Their COVID testing, medical devices, healthcare, and this nutritional baby segment is a very small piece. So basically, a very large company where the nutritional piece is a small piece gets to have the monopoly. It's not like you and I, where we really care. We could start an organic food company for something that could work. It can only be controlled by the big guys. And again, Wall Street gave them an increase in their stock price in the middle of all this, which means all the congressional people who have equity in these companies did really, really well. Someone said, short term, everything is transient. I remember inflation is too. Yeah, they have it in cycles. All right. So FDA and agriculture and Wall Street all benefited these guys. And again, it's a shared monopoly. In closing, I hope you understand what's really going on here. We have a complete control of the formula market by a few people. This was granted to them by Congress, and it was all branded as a way that we're doing competitive bidding. And that's what's really been created. This was all brought to you by the elites, and they don't give a damn about whether babies get fed or not. We've talked about the formulas have all sorts of high-risk heavy metals in them, and no one's really talked about it. And in the middle of all this, Abbott bought back nearly $6 billion worth of stock. They didn't put any of it to fix their machinery or their things that actually started this crisis. And I don't think they've yet to do that. At least as far as I know, I haven't seen any indication of that. So I hope that gives you the real analysis. So what is the solution? What is the way forward that we really can win on this? What really needs to be done? When you really think about this, and we step back, we have to recognize that as we talk about in our movement, as I shared in the previous video, it's only a bottoms up movement that's going to really change anything significant, because who really got affected in all of this? Who got affected? Let's ask who actually got affected. People can comment. Who really got screwed over in this? Did Joe Biden? John, did Joe Biden? Nope. Did Donald Trump? Did Ivanka's kids get screwed over in this? I don't think so, right? No. The elites can go literally probably rent somebody and probably get milk from somebody, right? Nursemaids, right? They can pay for that. But who really got affected by this were working people. In fact, it was a worker at that factory. It was a worker at the factory who lost his job, who's the one who whistle blew on this, right? And he was fired for this. And he's not, I don't know if the guy was on Tucker Carlson or wherever, right? If he got any play, but it was a whistleblower who brought this up, a working person in that factory. Working people are the ones who got screwed, and working people are still getting screwed. And these systems are brittle. The financial systems are brittle. The political systems are brittle, which means highly centralized. The baby formula systems are brittle. The car manufacturing systems are brittle. All the systems that the elites create for you and I are highly centralized. And so they are bound to have these issues. And the reality is they don't care, because let's say we have some shortage. I'm sure all of these guys, a gas shortage, they probably have their own ways to sustain gas in underground bunkers or whatever they have. That's what we need to understand, that ultimately these systems are not designed to be decentralized and resilient. They are designed so it's highly centralized, so they make money as bandits at our expense. And you and I, take this away as a key thing, are fighting among each other, supporting one idiot or another idiot every recurrent election cycle. We get into that as like a sports team every 2 years. And then we say, oh, we have to get that person elected because Joe Biden is so bad, or we have to get him elected because Trump is so bad. And it's just this bullshit. So we always take the lesser of two evils. We never go solve the real issue. I hope this analysis, this systems analysis, has done two things. First, inspired you to get out of the left and right, but most importantly, inspired you to become part of the Truth, Freedom, and Health movement, which is a movement for you to become leaders in your own communities. But start by really taking a systems approach beyond left and right. But you got to study. There's no way out of this without doing the analysis, putting the homework in. And I've made this course accessible so anyone on the planet can take it. You can afford it, and you can give it to your kids. So I keep harping on this. It's to really help you recognize that we need to build a movement, a bottoms up movement that goes beyond left or right. Yes. So someone here says people do not feel empowered to change systems. You have a point working with the grassroots. So JM Lisa, the other point here is it's not just working, but you can't, even if you want to build a grassroots movement, you have to have the right theory, the theoretical framework. You have to have the systems approach. Our school systems don't teach this. It took me time to put this together, to articulate this, but I hope you recognize that the elites don't give a damn about you. They're creating systems which are based on power, profit, and control. It's not about truth, freedom, and health. And it's time that all of you learn this approach. And I've organized this curriculum. We're creating the course curriculum. We're creating a worldwide community where you can learn with other people, and a way that you can get on the ground. You can take this knowledge, you can interact with people. It's not something you learn right away. You have to interact with people.